The first whisper didn't come from a news outlet. It didn't come from NASCAR. It didn't come from a family statement. It came from a headline, short, vague, and terrifying. Greg Biffle dead at 55. No context, no source, just enough words to ignite panic. In that moment, thousands of fans froze. Some stared at their screens in disbelief. Others immediately felt that sinking feeling, the one that arrives when you fear you've lost someone tied to your memories, your childhood, your favorite Sundays spent watching racing unfold at impossible speeds. What made the moment even more disturbing was the silence that followed. No confirmation, no denial, just an empty space where truth should have been. And in the modern internet age, silence doesn't slow rumors, it fuels them. People began filling that silence with assumptions, speculation, and fear. Comment sections turned into digital vigils, old photos resurfaced, clips from past races replayed with somber music. For a brief but powerful moment, the world collectively mourned a man who was still alive. To understand why this rumor exploded the way it did, you have to understand Greg Biffle's place in NASCAR history. He wasn't just a driver. He was a presence. He represented an era when drivers wore their emotions openly, when frustration boiled over on live television, and when competition felt personal rather than polished. Greg Biffle didn't smile for the cameras just to be liked. He raced with fire, and that fire made people feel something, whether it was admiration, frustration, or raw respect. Before the fame, before the championships, Greg Biffle was just another racer chasing an unforgiving dream. Motorsports does not promise success. It promises sacrifice, financial strain, physical danger, mental exhaustion. Countless talented drivers never make it past obscurity. But Biffle persisted, grinding through the lower ranks with an intensity that made it clear he wasn't there to participate. He was there to compete. When his breakthrough finally came, it felt inevitable. Championships in the Truck Series and Busch Series weren't flukes. They were proof that Greg Biffle had the discipline, aggression, and mental toughness required to survive at the highest level. His driving style was fearless, sometimes controversial, always intense. And fans noticed, rivals noticed, NASCAR noticed. As he entered the Cup Series, the pressure multiplied. Expectations grew heavier. Every race became a test. Every mistake became a headline. The sport was evolving, becoming more commercial, more media-driven, more polished. But Greg Biffle remained unapologetically himself. He didn't smooth his edges. He didn't rewrite his personality. And that authenticity, while admirable, often placed him directly in the crosshairs of criticism. Over time, the wins slowed. The spotlight shifted. Younger drivers emerged. New narratives replaced old ones. And Greg Biffle began to fade from the public eye, not with drama, not with scandal, but with distance. He stepped away quietly. No farewell tour, no emotional goodbye interviews, just space. And for the internet, space is dangerous. Years of silence created questions. Where did he go? What happened to him? Why doesn't he appear anymore? And when answers aren't easily found, the internet invents its own. That's how rumors are born. Not from facts, but from absence. So when the death hoax appeared, it landed on fertile ground. People hadn't heard from Greg Biffle in a long time. They weren't seeing new interviews. They weren't seeing regular updates. And that made the lie feel believable to those who didn't stop to verify. Thumbnails used old images. Headlines implied tragedy without evidence. And within hours, the rumor felt real to thousands. What followed was emotionally overwhelming. Fans mourned openly. They shared stories of watching races with parents who had since passed away. They talked about how Greg Biffle's career was part of their childhood, their teenage years, their connection to NASCAR. In mourning a false loss, people revealed how deeply real the connection had always been. But behind the screens, behind the clicks, there was a darker reality. Greg Biffle was alive, and somewhere, a real person was being declared dead by strangers. A real family was potentially receiving confused messages. A real legacy was being distorted for engagement. Celebrity death hoaxes are not harmless. They are not jokes. They exploit emotion. They weaponize nostalgia. They generate views at the expense of truth. and they leave behind confusion, anger, and emotional exhaustion once the lie is exposed. For a man who spent decades risking his life at high speeds, the irony was painful. Greg Biffle survived crashes, pressure, criticism, and the physical toll of elite racing, only to be killed by a headline designed for clicks. As the truth slowly resurfaced, emotions shifted. Relief replaced grief. Then anger followed. Could this happen? Why do people believe these things so easily? And what responsibility do creators have when dealing with real lives? The answer lies in reflection. The internet rewards speed, not accuracy, emotion, not verification. And until viewers slow down and demand truth, these moments will repeat again and again, with different names, different faces, and the same harm. Yet something unexpected happened in the aftermath. Fans revisited Greg Biffle's career with fresh eyes. They remembered the intensity, the battles, the moments that made them care. In trying to mourn him, they rediscovered him. And that alone proves something important. His legacy never disappeared. It was only quiet. Greg Biffle's real story is not a tragedy. It is a story of survival, of achievement, of stepping away after giving everything. Choosing privacy after living under constant scrutiny is not a failure. It is strength. And so the truth stands firm against the noise. Greg Biffle is alive. There were no final hours, no hidden ending, just a lesson about misinformation, about responsibility, and about how fragile truth becomes in the age of viral content. In the end, this moment should not be remembered for the lie, but for the reminder it delivered. Legends don't need false deaths to be remembered. They live on through impact, memory, and respect. Greg Biffle's name still matters, his story still resonates, and his legacy remains untouched by fabricated endings, because truth, even when delayed, always outlasts deception.